Recording started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the fourth quarter meeting of the State Fire Prevention and Building Code Council. We have a relatively quick agenda today, I think. Unfortunately, it was a much longer agenda and several things fell off at the request of different municipalities. So we ended up with this, but this is a good planning meeting to get us ready for the deluge that is to come. We are already starting to look at what the next few meetings look like, and they look very, very, very busy. But we'll leave that to Kevin at a later agenda item. So agenda item 1, Kevin, why don't you read the roll? We're going to ask you, when Kevin says your name, say here, and then if you could spell your last name for the court reporter, that would be helpful. All right, Kevin?
All right, so Kevin Dorr Clark, KEVINDUERR-CLARK. Matt Tebow.
I'm here, MATTHEWTEBO. Ben Keller.
Here, it's Benjamin, BENJAMIN. Last name is Keller, KELLER.
Michael Weber.
Michael Weber, representing New York State Homes and Community Renewal, MICHAELWEBER.
Vincent Rappaciulo.
I'm here, VINCENTRAPACCIUOLO.
Joseph DeStefano.
JOSEPHDE_STEFANO.
Claudia Bramer.
CLAUDIA, Bramer, BRAYMER.
Joseph Toomey.
JOSEPH, Toomey, TOOMEY.
Sean Hamlin. He's not here. Timothy DeRusher.
Here, TIM, capital DE, capital RUYSCHER.
Robert Hughes.
Here, ROBERT, Hughes, HUGHES.
William Tyne.
Here, WILLIAMTUYN.
Dominic Marinelli.
Sorry, DOMINICMARINELLI.
And we have 2 remote members today. Keith Wen.
Here, Keith, KEIGH, Wen, WEN.
And Patrick Dolan.
Here, Patrick, PATRICK, Dolan, DOLAN.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. And Mayor Spano, sorry.
It's okay. First name is Michael, MICHAEL. Last name is spelled Spano, SPANO.
Okay, now we're good.
Okay. So pursuant to Public Officers Law 103A, a quorum is established of
11, because it's John.
It's 11 members attending at locations open to the public, and 2 members via video conference from a remote location that is not open to the public with permission of the council. Okay. My first order of business in the first agenda item is to welcome Mayor Mike Spano, who is joining us from New York City today. He was appointed by the governor to serve in the city over 100,000 population. He's from the city of Yonkers, for those who didn't know. And he'll be joining us for the duration of this code development process. So, Mayor, welcome. You want to say hi?
I do want to say hi. Thank you. I'm a little discombobulated. I'm not used to this, but this is exciting. I'm really looking forward to my time working with all of you, and special thanks, obviously, to the governor for the appointment.
Well, we're very happy to have you. With regard to appointments, I can see sort of the future a little bit, and it looks like we will actually have a full board for the first time in several years by our March meeting. So that's exciting. We have some new members coming in from other parts of the state that aren't currently represented. So that's great. Okay, let's see. Next announcement: members not in attendance in the Albany location, please mute your microphones. When anyone wishes to speak, please unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and then speak. Anyone from the public wishing to address the Code Council during the public comment period should send a message through the WebEx chat to either Kevin or China. And we will then collect some information from you, and then you can address the council during, I believe it's agenda item 6. All right. That takes care of that. Kevin, are there any agenda changes today?
None.
All right. I figured you were going to talk later, so I'd do all your stuff. Okay. That takes us to agenda item 2, which is the draft minutes of September 23, 2022. This was sent in your packets. Are there any potential changes to the minutes for those that were here? All right. Hearing none. We usually do this by voice vote, so we will continue to do that. Can I have a motion to approve those? I always look at Joe because I know Joe's going to raise his hand, so Joe Toomey makes the motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Tim DeRocher seconds the motion. Okay, all in favor of adopting the minutes of September 23, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nothing present.
Okay, and Mayor Spano will also do so. All right, so we have that recorded and approved. Great.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 3. Chapter 651 of the laws of 2022. This was just signed last week. It's a new law regarding hot tubs and spas. And we're going to turn it over to council to run us through it. This is another one of those legislature had something it wants us to do. So, Penny Oda, if you can take over.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
You're a little low, but we can hear you. I think you probably have to spell your name for the reporter.
Okay. P-A-N-A-G-I-O-T-A. Last name Hyde, H-Y-D-E. On November 23rd, 2022, Bill A8646 S7858 was signed by the governor as Chapter 651 of the laws of 2022, along with approval message number 33. The law amends paragraph C of subdivision 14 of section 378 of the executive law to provide that a hot tub or spa with a safety cover which complies with ASTM F1346-2003 or any similar standard which may be approved by the Code Council, or a swimming pool with an automatic power safety cover which complies with ASTM F1436-2003 or any similar standard which may be approved by the Code Council, shall be exempt from the provisions of this subdivision. Section 378 of the Executive Law provides a list of the subjects that the Uniform Code shall address. Currently, paragraph C of subdivision 14 of section 378 of the Executive Law only exempts hot tubs or spas with a safety cover which complies with ASTM F1346-2003 or any similar standard approved by the Code Council, or swimming pools with an automatic power safety cover which complies with ASTM F1346-2003 or any similar standard approved by the Code Council from the provisions of paragraph B of subdivision 14. Paragraph B of subdivision 14 relates to the requirement that residential or commercial swimming pools constructed or substantially modified after the effective date of paragraph B shall be equipped with an acceptable pool alarm capable of detecting a child entering the water and of giving an audible alarm. This bill exempts hot tubs or spas with a compliant safety cover or swimming pools with a compliant automatic power safety cover from the provisions of subdivision 14. In addition to the requirements in paragraph B relating to pool alarms, paragraph A provides that gates required to be provided in swimming pool enclosure shall be self-closing and self-latching with a latch handle located within the enclosure and at least 40 inches above grade and shall be securely locked with a key combination or other childproof lock sufficient to prevent access to such swimming pool through such gate when such swimming pool is not in use or supervised. And paragraph C provides that temporary swimming pool enclosure shall be required to be replaced by a permanent enclosure, which is in compliance with the New York State codes, regulations, or local laws within 90 days from the issuance of the building permit or the commencement of the installation of an in-ground swimming pool, whichever is later. The sponsor's memo in support of legislation provides that the purpose of the bill is to clarify building safety codes relating to hot tub or spa safety covers. And the justification provides the legislation would make a technical change to the hot tub and spa building code statute to clarify lockable hot tub and spa safety covers are the primary means of a safety barrier. However, the bill extends further than just amending the exemption requirements for hot tubs or spas with safety covers, as it also exempts swimming pools with automatic power safety covers from the provisions of Subdivision 14 as well. Based on the governor's approval message, there will be a chapter amendment to clarify that the legislature only intended to exempt hot tubs and spas with safety covers from both the pool alarm and barrier requirements of Subdivision 14, and that swimming pools with automatic power safety covers would still only be exempt from the pool alarm requirements. The effective date of the law is immediately, so we would need to work quickly to amend the provisions in the Uniform Code. With this understanding, we are seeking the Code Council's conceptual approval to allow the department to file a notice of proposed rulemaking to amend the Uniform Code provisions relating to hot tubs and spas promptly once the chapter amendment is signed, so that the Code Council may be in a position to vote on a notice of adoption at the next Code Council meeting scheduled for March 31st. And with that, I will turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Peniota. I'm going to keep you on the hot seat for a minute because I got a feeling that some of the members may have some questions. Does any members have questions? Maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
I have one question. Bill Tyne in Buffalo.
Hi, Bill. What's going on?
Hi. Good morning. It has to do with the effective date. The law says it's effective immediately. We're not going to pass this as a code until the 31st of March, ostensibly. So what does that mean that people installing hot tubs and swimming pool covers between now and then have to do when they go in front of their building department to get a permit and do the work?
Fair question, Bill Peniota. You got to come off mute. There you go.
Yeah, so currently the code requirements that are applicable are within the Uniform Code. This law does make this effective immediately, but with the approval message together, I think we have to look at both of those items, understanding that there's going to be changes to the law, and this happens, quite frequently when there are chapter amendments to laws, that there is that interim time frame where a law is in effect, but technically it's about to be changed. So, at this point, what the building departments can do is understand that the code requirements are what they are as set forth in the Uniform Code right now. There is an option to seek a variance always, obviously, for one or more provisions, and that is one path that they can take. But the Uniform Code is what it is at this time.
So the Uniform Code prevails until we change it.
Correct, because 378 is in essence giving guidance and direction for what the Code Council is supposed to adopt within the code, right? So we're just,
I understand,
in the brief period right now, not being technically, as quick as we can, going to be updating the Uniform Code provisions. But, unfortunately, we can't just wave our wand and do it immediately.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions? So this is a bit of a difference from normal. Normally, the legislature gives us 90 days or 120 days in order to act, and keeps everything sort of in the right spot and gives us time to get through a regulatory process that obviously, even with an emergency reg, takes time. They didn't in this case, and I don't expect that the chapter amendment is going to have a different effective date. So we're going to have to, we think we've got this right, and we're going to move as fast as we can through this process, right? So today we'll seek a conceptual approval vote. We always do that by voice vote to allow these guys to move forward with the process. They'll draft their regulation. Like I said, we kind of know what the chapter amendment, what the next statute's going to say, so we can draft the regulation, and as soon as that is passed and signed, we can then put the regulation out. It will have its public comment period. We'll make sure the Code Council sees that language even before it gets out for the public comment to see if you guys have any potential changes, and then we'll take it up as a notice of adoption on March 31. Okay.
Actually do have one question.
No.
Curious. This was not in the code. This setup was actually the prior code, and the current code had this in there. I'm just curious, was there a specific reason? Because it would be helpful to understand maybe why they came to that determination originally, to understand that, why was this in there? And I do know, especially in my little jurisdiction, we've had maybe 4 variances that are obtained. And I get it. I'm for it. I understand it because it was in the prior code. But just out of curiosity, was there any specific reason why this was in the current code? Was it an oversight? Was it just something that might have, got through the loop? Or was there something that this council looked at the time and thought, this is necessary to have?
So I think that's more of a policy question, either John or Kevin.
So, I should say policy, but it was in the code, I believe, because of the way the statute was currently written, did not have an exception for hot tubs, and I guess that sort of speaks to why the legislature added an exception now to make it clear that they intend to have an exception for it. So without the exception, it just says swimming pools and hot tubs should have permanent barriers installed.
No, I understand that. I understand the whole intent of this right now. It's actually going back to the prior code, which had it in there.
Well, had the exception in there
Correct.
previously.
Hot tubs were exempt from the fencing and the barrier if you had a safety cover.
Right. John?
Right. No, we staff, and when we did the last update, we looked at it closer and made a determination that it wasn't clear. So that was the suggestion that we gave to the Code Council. So it was us taking a closer look at it and realizing that it wasn't clear. So obviously this legislation makes it clear that we can exempt the hot tubs. That's why it was changed. Yeah.
Okay. Just was curious if there was some specific reason at the time why it was required for this current site. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Can I have a motion for conceptual approval to allow the department to file a notice of proposed rulemaking once the chapter amendment is signed?
So moved.
All right, Bill Time makes the motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Robert Hughes seconds the motion. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. You are hereby authorized and directed to do that. Okay, jumping to agenda item number 4. Division update. Mr. Dario, the floor is yours.
Yes. Good morning, Chair Tebow and co-council members. So I just have a couple things to update you on since the last meeting. I guess in line with everybody else, I'll spell my name. It's John, John, Addario, Addario. So just an update on some of the reports that were due out that I mentioned last meeting. The Radon Task Force has been drafting the report with one of the recommendations to the Code Council to consider the adoption of the Radon Appendix in the next code update. Also with them, among other things that don't directly affect the code or the Code Council, but will be included in that report. The current schedule now has the task force releasing that draft report for public comment in the beginning of next year. Also, the final scoping plan from the Climate Action Council is due out in the beginning of the year. Again, it's a 500-page document. Chapter 12 focuses on the buildings chapter. And so we want to focus on that, but all the other chapters are noteworthy as well. Last report I want to mention is the 2 million home climate-friendly homes, which was part of the state from last year. The draft action plan is on. how to meet those goals, and will also be out at the beginning of next year. Again, when any of those reports are released, we'll share those links and documents with the Code Council. Next, the quick update on the regulations. So the notice of adoption was filed today, which is the updated version of Part 1202, establishing the minimum standards in circumstances in which the Secretary of State administers and enforces the Uniform Code and Energy Code, and will appear in the December 28th edition of the State Register and will become effective on December 30th. Also mentioned in prior meetings, the updated version of Part 1203, establishing minimum standards applicable to local governments that administer and enforce the Uniform Code and Energy Code, will become effective on December 30th. So local governments should have updated or should be in the process of updating their local laws. The last item I want to mention is regarding the next code update. There are certain statutes that provide that the Code Council shall coordinate, collaborate, or consult with other agencies and authorities. For example, the executive law authorizes the Code Council to review and approve standards established by rules and regulations promulgated by the Commissioner of the Department of Health, or the implementation of the general business law relating to unvented gas space heating appliances. And also the environmental conservation law provides that the Department of Environmental Conservation shall consult with the Code Council to ensure the rules establishing standards for petroleum bulk storage facilities are consistent with the Uniform Code. So as you may recall, the Code Council through the Codes Division staff previously coordinated with DOH and DEC on these items. So there are potentially additional items that may arise over the next couple of years with other agencies and authorities, including the Office of Historic Preservation, NYSERDA, and others. So the Codes Division will continue to perform any necessary coordination and collaboration on behalf of the Code Council and report any progress at future Code Council meetings. For instance, the Advanced Building Code Act of 2022 amended the energy law by removing the blanket exemption for historic buildings and authorizing the Code Council, in consultation with the Office of Historic Preservation, to adopt exemptions to the uniform standards and requirements for historic buildings to the extent that the uniform standards and requirements would threaten, degrade, or destroy this historic form, fabric, or function of such historic buildings. So the Code Division staff did conduct an initial meeting with the Office of Historic Preservation staff to establish the parties to be involved in such coordination. And the next steps will include developing a proposed code language and requesting their feedback. So I just wanted to keep you informed on that front, and we will continue to do that. So thank you, Chair Tebow and Code Council members. That's all I have at this time.
Thanks, John. You had packed a lot in there in a short period. Are there any questions for John? Oh, wow, okay. Joe Toomey.
I'm not sure whether I missed it previously. Any updates on the Florida building collapse and the report on that?
That report has not been released yet. I believe they're still working on that. I think that was a year or two out. So I have not heard, but I can follow up just to make sure there wasn't anything, but I have not seen anything yet.
Okay. I mean, that was a hot topic.
It was a hot topic.
You know, best to wait for a thorough report.
Yep.
Robert? Regarding the 1203, something that came up, and I had asked our local council. I believe in there, and I'm not familiar with it because, public schools are now included, I believe, as part of the inspection process. I do believe the local municipality, the building inspector, does not have to perform that. They can request that comes from the school. But having no background and no information, no plans, nothing on the public schools, I'm concerned whether the municipalities will actually fully understand that and realize that that's actually in there. Because without reading it myself and questioning it, council and municipality didn't really realize that was in there. So I'd just like to see maybe that is explained and clarify to local municipalities, building departments, that that is actually in there, and that's pretty big and probably could create a lot of concerns and issues because the dynamics between schools in local jurisdictions and local building departments and village hall can be, town halls are not the easiest to navigate. So I think that needs to maybe come across a little bit more explanation and, guide towns into that part of that and what actually gets done and why that's in there and maybe the specifics of that.
John?
Yeah, no, the actual requirements haven't changed. I know there was some rewording in that section. And we are in the process of developing a course that'll kind of highlight some of those issues. So that's a good point, and we have heard other things. I don't know, Kevin, I know you were involved in 1203. Is that correct?
Yeah,
what I'm saying as far as the changes?
Yeah, I would agree that the intent wasn't to change any provisions surrounding that. I think it was just to make it clear, and I think it allows for alternative individuals to do those inspections. And just like John said, we do have a training class that's under development, so we can certainly take note of that to make sure it's made abundantly clear in the class what that provision means.
Right. Thank you.
Just to follow up, is it a mandate for local government to do it, or who has the option of doing the inspection?
My understanding is not a mandate for the local governments to do it.
So the local government can pass back to the school, but if they wanted to, they have the option.
That's an interesting question the way you word it, but I think the way that it's established now is that the municipalities just have to be aware of the inspections being performed, but typically they're done by a different party. It's just identifying it in the regulation that way. I think that's.
Will you send out some information on that?
Say it again.
Will you send some?
Yeah. So again, we'll make sure in development of the 1203 class that we address that topic.
The reason I say it with conversation with council is you're right. We weren't obligated to perform it, but if issues were found, it was our obligation to follow up, and that's a whole different dynamic. Having, and again, no experience or background in local building departments on the public schools, nothing. We don't know what's in there. We don't really, honestly, we're not in there often. A lot of municipalities are not in there at all for the schools. It's a separate entity. And you're walking blind into a space. So that's just would help both getting clarification on that, whether what's in there now and what's going to be in there and the responsibilities. Would be very helpful because not all the time maybe council might be fully grasping it either. So any type of help, outreach in classes would be great.
Understood. We'll definitely make sure to address that in the training class.
So, in the report, there's mention of coordination with the Department of Environmental Conservation. And it just made me think about, and I apologize if this is a question for another day. So since we last met, the state adopted the Environmental Bond Act that passed, which will result in a significant level of building activity. Andrew, is the intent that all of that would occur under the code that exists, or are there changes to the code that will be necessary in order to meet the goals of the bond? Or I could do it short. Is there work coming to the council that's necessary to implement the bond?
And I would add to that question that how we are going to implement any of the recommendations in the climate action scoping document. And the discussion about stretch. How are we making that uniform across the state instead of all these little individual municipality requests?
Okay, there's two pretty separate questions there. So I'll start on the right side, and this is one of those moments where I invite John and Peniota and Kevin to join me in what I'm saying, because I'm now skating at the edge of my knowledge. With regard to the Bond Act, I believe the current, where we stand, right, I believe that Bond Act is going to be live before the new code comes into effect. So it's going to be the code that we have right now that's going to control the building for that period, right? Until such time as which we're targeting the end of 2024, to get to the ICC 2024 code base. Until we get to that, the current code stands and will control. And then from that point forward, any permits that are pulled after that point will then be controlled controlled by the 2024 code, right? So, I mean, best answer I can give you. I mean, does anyone want to jump in here with me, or? I see no. Okay,
No,
I must
I
be
think you've
absolutely right. You
No,
think I
you're
got
right.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, obviously, if there's any legislation that comes out, we would have to react to that. But in the meantime, I think, yeah, the 2024 would be and I won't jump to the stretch code, but I'll let you do it, Matt. You want to talk about that?
Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, so now jumping across the room to Claudia's question. Okay, so the CLCPA at the beginning of the year we were already looking at a draft, right? We've all seen it. It came out a year ago, and they're making moderate changes to it, though with regard to the actions of this council, it appears that we're just talking about pushing the dates out into the future a little bit so that we have time to get through the 2024 code update. With regard to the recommendations that are in there right now, that's going to be something that this council's going to have to take up within its statutory authority. Some of the things that are coming out, some of the recommendations that are coming out in CLCPA, and potentially the 2 million or more homes draft, probably require legislative action to give us authority or to do it themselves. Full electrification seems to be one of those things. If that's, I have a feeling that's your follow-up question, so I'm just going to address it right up. It appears that would require a legislative act to get to that next level. We have general authority. We have, very strong general authority, but I think that is because there are some statutory provisions that sort of speak directly to not favoring specific energy types, that kind of thing. I think it would require change. So I know that they're making recommendations, and those recommendations are sort of scattered to everybody to get us to a certain point. The right entities are going to have to take up the right things. The legislature directs us to do something, that's one thing. If the legislature authorizes us to do something, then it's going to be, we're going to have to decide what we're doing within that scope of that 2024 change. I know the goal of that council, the CAC, is for that to be part of the 2024 goal.
Matt, it's
That's
Bill
not-
and
Sound like Bill. Hi, Bill.
It is. Hi. I just wanted to take this moment to voice my hope that as the legislature takes this issue up, particularly with respect to electrification, I know the Climate Action Council has had a lot of input from utility providers and from stakeholders on all sides of the issue. But I hope they're paying attention and taking advice and counsel from technical staff at the Division of Building Standards and Codes about they're mapping out a laudable goal, but it seems to me by the schedules that have been put forth to date in draft form, they're not paying attention to pragmatic or practical sequencing. They're almost literally getting, in my opinion, the cart 2 miles down the road in front of the horse. And I can tell you, we don't build homes from the roof down. We build them from the foundation up. And the idea that you're going to make electrification when you have utility providers telling you that the grid does not have capacity to supply power to those homes seems to be foolish. The focus should be getting the grid in place. It's something that everyone wants. I have yet to meet a single person that doesn't say we want to create a more sustainable future for future generations, for our children, for our grandchildren. Everyone's on board with that. But no one's on board with saying, put something in place that shuts everything down. The utility providers who want customers are saying, you're going to push everybody to adjoining states who are not this far out in front, who are doing it in proper sequence. And I hope people recognize the impact that the building industry has to the overall economy. Because we don't just build houses and employ framers and brick masons. Home construction, building construction, the creation of neighborhoods supports the entire economy. There's a reason why when the economic reports are given for the health of the nation's economy, building starts are the fundamental benchmark for the health of the economy. because those people that populate those neighborhoods support every single sector of the economy. Every single business does business with the people who live in these neighborhoods that we're going to create. And if we can't create them anymore, that's to the detriment of New York State and to the economy of New York State, to everyone. And so just get the grid in place. I can tell you, I see people coming into communities across our region asking to build solar farms, wind farms, and they're limited on how much power, how big they can make these facilities, because the current grid can't even accept power from those alternative energy sources until they improve it. It doesn't have capacity to even take it. So there's a lot of work to be done to make these things a reality. And I know your staff already understands this. I'm not trying to educate anyone there, but I'm just hoping this message can get down to the legislature before they do something that, in my opinion, would be foolish. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Are there any other?
One last
Tim?
question.
Sure.
Neglecting all of the climate action change items, John, is there we're talking about the next couple of years of having a lot of things to do. Is there a big, broad overview plan in place yet that, okay, the first part of March we're going to get X, Y, Z, so we can start preparing for some of that?
I think that's going to be the next agenda item, somewhat.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Yeah, no,
I'll wait
perfect.
for that.
You'll likely
Yeah.
have questions for that soon. Okay.
That was a
Anyone
good
else?
intro. Thanks.
It was a perfect intro. No one else
I tried.
jumps in. Helping me out. Okay. All right, hearing no other questions for John or comments regarding the things that John brought up, we'll move to agenda item 5, and we'll hear Kevin's, it's not dissertation length, but.
No, it's shorter than Penny Otis.
Oh, well, how hard is that? Okay, Kevin.
So, based on the request from the Code Council for the division to work on streamlining the process for this upcoming code update, division staff has been working with ICC and internally to develop a methodology that allows the update to move forward as efficiently as possible. Staff has developed a plan that would help reduce the back and forth coordination with ICC, as well as allow staff to begin the SAPA process prior to the 2024 ICC documents being finalized. Part of the process includes division staff utilizing a new software program called Adobe FrameMate. This will allow us to make the New York State specific changes within the same publishing program used by ICC and send publishable documents to them, minimizing their need to import the changes into their software and then go through multiple iterations of time-consuming back-checking of each other's work, like we have in years past. Another step we've taken is staff has developed a new document format for the Notice of Rule and Development phase of the SAPA process. Historically, this phase included a PDF version of each draft book, including all of the changes and unchanged language. However, in order to be able to start the process now, staff will create a document specific for this phase of the rulemaking process. The document will have a cover sheet that will display each notable change, a brief title/description of the change, and a numbering system unique to each of the 9 code books. Users will then be able to see each change, including the actual modified language, depicting both added and deleted text. Staff will use this document to show the changes proposed, such as those that are a result of the 21 and 24 ICC code development process, any of the new legislative directives that we just previously talked about, and any public comments or public proposals, etc. So the notable changes for the 21 I-codes were presented to the Code Council at the March 2022 meeting. Staff has begun to develop the draft Notice of Rule and Development document, starting with the changes based on what we know thus far from the 2024 ICC code development process, which just ended its online government consensus voting process last month. The plan at this time is to have a first draft of the document ready for the Code Council at the March 2023 meeting. The necessary agreements with ICC will need to be finalized prior to any code language being shared with the members. Next, staff will have to blend those changes with the 21 ICC changes, any new legislative directives, and the public comments and proposals. These additional changes will be integrated into the document and presented to the Code Council at the subsequent meetings. Shortly after this meeting, staff will transmit a mock-up document for the Code Council members so they can see and familiarize themselves with the new format. The mock-up document will be used based on the 2020 code, so it'll focus on more the formatting of the document rather than actual code change language, but that way everybody will be able to familiarize themselves with a simplified version of what this final NRD document will look like.
Okay, so putting some meat on the bone a little bit here, just so that so we're all maybe I can have some questions. So it's probably best to first understand that we will not have the books, the actual 2024 I-code language, until somewhere between March and September. We know that from ICC. We're hopeful that we have all the books by September, but that in order to meet the regulatory schedule, we've got to be doing an NRD around September, maybe October. But that also means that we don't need the actual books for the notice of proposal we're making until next January, 2024. So what we've done is we've created a document using what's called the ICC monograph. It is their code language as it's being updated, and it can still continue to be updated. And so we can see the changes, but they're not finalized yet. So what's going to happen over the next couple of months is Kevin and his staff and Emma and her staff are going to be modifying, taking language from those monographs, and they're going to show it to us in a singular document, the actual change and then a description of the change, so we know what it is. And that's going to kind of continually roll and update as we get more information. Right now, the Group A's, John can jump in here and tell me when I'm wrong, so please do. The Group A's are basically done. So we know there won't be a ton of, good, he's shaking his head, yes, that's good. So we know there won't be a ton of changes to the Group A documents. The Group B's are still at sort of that coming to the end of their changes. I believe there's still a possibility of appeals, right, John, on B?
Actually, I think that's both on Group A and Group B. It's open. I don't think that close, but we know that. I mean, they have. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Yes. So there's always a chance of the appeal. Yeah.
The good news is I think we probably have 95% of what the actual language will be in the books. We have a specific agreement. We will have a specific agreement with the ICC to share this information, a derivative work, with you guys and the public, so that we're not jumping ahead of their process. But this is really the only way we can do this and stay in 2024 lockstep with them, which I think was the goal, at least of the council, and I've certainly heard from outside entities that we need to get closer to ICC standards. So that's what we're doing. What I'm going to ask is, in the 2020, once we get into 2023 and we start to send the members this document, please take a look, get back to us with anything that worries you, any questions that you have. I mean, Kevin's staff is going to be busy, but we want to be trying to create a document that is, that the members are comfortable with. So, it's going to be unlike processes in the past where, we kind of went from meeting to meeting, and, this is a process that in order to do this, we're going to need your input in between meetings a little bit. So, anything jumps out at you, anything you're uncomfortable with, let us know, then we can bring it up at the next meeting. We can talk it through as a group and either discard it or decide to keep it. That I would like to sort of create that cycle. We're going to have that from March to September of next year, and then we'll enter an NRD phase once that's out to the public, and that's under public comment. We can still make changes to it once we get to the notice of proposed rulemaking phase the following January in 2024. Changes require lengthening out the process, so we want to be solid as a group by the time we get to January of next year. So that's sort of the timeline on top of Kevin's methodology. Tim?
So that, from what I'm understanding, it's basically following the process and the clarity that the ICC uses so that we can see that in those ever-changing documents, new code proposals, deletions, why it was, the substantiation, that we're going to be able to see that?
So the NRD document, or at least the initial document, will show the actual changes being made. It may not necessarily drill down into the reason statements or cost impact statements, but it'll have the code section and then the changes that were successful at the ICC level. And then obviously the discussion part of the co-council meeting will address, I think, the extra piece that you're talking about.
Yes, okay.
It's why I'm saying if things pop out in between, I do want the members to reach out to Kevin and staff, because they can, if they can't answer the question, they'll drill down and get the answer for you, so that you're in a good place for the discussion in both the June and the September meetings.
So as a follow-up question then, when currently the public can go through and make proposed changes into staff, that information then would also be reflected as part of the write-up for us to review?
Yes, so eventually in the process, the first process is the 24. One we did last March, 24, we're going to show next. We're going to blend in the 21, and then they'll also be able to identify additional public proposals that have come in or co-council proposals that have been put forward. So they'll all eventually be blended into that document for discussion.
Okay. Is that going to be a portal or some other kind of thing, or is that going to, other than the SharePoint kind of a thing?
Yep, so it won't be a portal, right now it'll be a PDF, and so it has a cover sheet to it. We'll get the mock-up sent out hopefully next week, but it basically has a cover sheet to it, and the cover sheet is just a brief description of the items. It'll just say like section, code book, proposal number, and a title, and then you'll be able to click on that, and it'll snap to the actual proposal within the PDF.
Okay.
So, if you have a specific interest in one specific topic at a moment, you can click on those and you'll be able to see them and snap down to the actual section.
Thank you.
Kevin will be differentiating between 21 to 24 shift and New York potential change shift, right?
Right. It also has a series of columns on it that'll help us to identify where this proposal came from, whether it was a 21 code change, a 2024 code change, or a general public change, those kinds of things.
That's a beast to try to get a hold of all that information and keep it together in one spot. That's a worthy challenge.
We're looking forward to it.
Wow.
Chair Tebow.
Go ahead.
Chair Tebow.
Keith?
Hi. I have a question about, I actually have a few points I want to make and a couple of questions. Question number one is, I think either you or someone mentioned there was a March 2022 staff highlight on the potential changes. And because I was reappointed not until September of this year, if someone can help me out and send me a copy of that, that would be very helpful. This is one request. The second one is more of a big picture question. I think some of the council members may have mentioned already, but it's still not clear to me. And forgive me because I'm just jumping back into this wagon just now, so I'm trying to understand and catch up. So my understanding looking at the March minutes is that back then there was a discussion about Climate Action Council report, making several recommendations that would have impacted the Code Council here. And I think a couple of bullet points here is that we are supposed to have certain achievement by 2030 in terms of electrification, zero greenhouse gas emission for new commercial construction, right? And the deadline for compliance is 2027, and several other points. My question is, you mentioned that we are in the process of reviewing I-codes and incorporating the 2024 plus the 2021 I-code changes, and the staff will review and make recommendations, so on and so forth. And the expectation is we should have something ready by 2024. Are we still on target to address, will we be on target to address the recommendations from the Climate Action Council? That's my question. Sorry for the long description.
No worries. So right now, we are on a schedule that would take us to adopting a combined code, a uniform and energy code, in September of 2024 with a live date sometime, because we have to wait 90 days for the uniform code, not the energy code, but for the uniform code, we have to wait statutorily. So that would take us to a live date of the New York State 2024 codes at the very end of 2024. So we can meet under the current schedule any changes that are recommended by the CLPC. Oh God, the worst time to do it. CLCPA. Got it. CLCPA. I've been messing that up for weeks. We can meet any recommendations that are in there that this body chooses to take up and that we have the statutory authority to take up. I'm sorry, I know I just put 16 caveats on that, but unfortunately, this is all very much juggling where we are right now. Keith, did I answer your question? Keith, you're on mute.
We can't hear you, Keith. You're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. I was actually saying there's a follow-up question in terms of the mock-up document. I understand the mock-up document and the purpose of the mock-up document, but I have a procedural question because you mentioned that you would like the council members to start reviewing the changes in between our quarterly meetings. What is the expectation? Do we have an opportunity to discuss in between those meetings among the members of the council, or are we just reviewing in silos?
Okay, I'll speak and I'll defer to council if she thinks I'm speaking incorrectly. But this is open meetings law rules apply here. So members can discuss amongst themselves, but only in a group of less than a quorum, which is 9. So I'm not setting up at this time any, and this is going to be a decision point over the next 3 months, I think. At this time, I'm not setting up any subcommittees. We could do that, but the other side of that is I have a feeling that every member may have input. So right now, I think we were looking at the siloed approach where members are talking to Kevin. Kevin can send out information to the members, but we can't talk as a group because we need an open meeting to do that. So that's why we're trying to get member input and then get ready for the next meeting. We are required under statute to have 4 meetings a year. We can meet more often at the call of the chair. So I would say that, across this line today, but I would say that if we needed to, there was enough input, there was enough questions, I thought there would be, I thought there was a good reason to meet. We could call a meeting. Right now we're looking at March and June. We could call a meeting in May. We could call a meeting in August. Those aren't fun, obviously, but in order to meet our goal, we could do that if needed. But Keith, to answer your direct question, right now we're envisioning the siloed approach where you're meeting with, or you're talking with Kevin's staff and Emma's staff about potential issues.
Okay, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. No. I just want to have a game plan and knowing what to do. I just want to do the right thing. So thank you.
No, understood, and I appreciate the question. Robert.
Just one question actually now. You're doing, it's been great being here, and you guys are so helpful. I know a lot of work goes behind the scenes, so I'm not looking to put more work on. But the most important part, I think, is actually after the codes are adopted, they're actually boots on the ground, it gets enforced. And what is a great tool, which a lot of, unfortunately, municipalities may not even be aware of, is the commentary from the ICC, which gives you a backstory, which gives you the intent, which explains it. So everyone here in this code council getting an understanding to make a decision on and vote on these codes is one thing. Getting that information out from a commentary so the enforcement in local jurisdiction will grasp what's happening, especially when we're skipping a code cycle. And because I can still tell you there's things in the current code that they scratch their head. When you explain to them there's a commentary, they go there and say, but that section is New York, it's not in there. And it's still helpful. You can still guide your way. You make the best decision you can, but any additional help, some form of a commentary, something along that lines, as opposed to relying on guys getting their additional training or something, anything that does a go-to book, something that guys can chit-chat and go to something and read it, is similar to the commentary. If there's a possibility of creating that as we go through this, that would be extremely helpful.
So I will say that members of our staff were channeling you several weeks ago. We had a discussion about, and I need to be careful because there's ongoing contractual discussions, but there is discussion about trying to get as much of that available to the code enforcement officers as possible after this iteration. Because you're right, jumping a code cycle, it's a lot. It's, you know, this is into the 2015 and with all the potential changes, this is maybe akin to the 2003 when we, you know, went to the ICC standard. So given that it's likely to be such a big change, we're going to try and get as much of that type of information available to the people who have to enforce this after the fact.
Not that you can get everything perfect. Under enforcement's not good. Over enforcement's not good.
Right. Okay.
So when you don't have that information and it's not there to help guide you a little bit more than what might be just written in black and white in the code, it's helpful to get more consistency.
100% agree with you. Tim?
To follow up on that then, like the ICC premium service, like we do a lot of different types of work in my business. You can go right back down to who proposed it, when they proposed it, why, or here's the reasoning, here's the information. Is that something we're going to try to achieve for the New York-isms? Because following up to the earlier question, that would be very, very helpful for a lot of different people in the state.
Also as part of that discussion several weeks ago, and I'm very afraid that both Em and Kevin are crying behind their glasses right now. Also is under discussion as a help tool. So we'll give you more information on that as we get closer to to that.
It just adds transparency to why we're doing something and why is something here, and this is the reason why, and somebody can look at it later on, rather than trying to remember, I was around during the initial changeover to the ICC codes. I've got books and other information that I may have at my disposal that someone else does not, but to have that available for the public to use, and especially code enforcement folks, is a tremendous asset.
And add to the fact that it would help this body in going into future iterations, because they wouldn't have to rely necessarily on staff to be providing that justification for change. You would be able to just go back and see the document and know why that change was made and why it might be changing again.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Kevin, I believe I have to log back into my computer because that was a longer discussion than we thought it was going to be, but I believe we moved to public comment period. Yes. Do we have anyone?
So we do have one individual, bear with me, who did type in. Michael Hernandez would like to make a public comment. So I will unmute you, Michael, and take it away.
Yes, hello. My name is Michael Hernandez. I'm the Director of Policy for New York for Rewiring America. And I just wanted to address some of the comments that were made during the meeting today regarding the passage of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act and the Climate Action Council final scoping plan. There was a distinction made between the legislative delegating authority to make changes to the building code in line with the Climate Action Council final scoping plan and a directive or a mandate to make the changes. In June of 2022, the legislature passed and the governor signed into law in July, which was effective immediately as of July of 2022, a law that provided that the building code, that the Code Council that the building code shall be designed to achieve the state's clean energy and climate agenda, including as identified by the New York State Climate Action Council. And so that was a mandate on the Code Council to update the building code to reflect CLCPA, which is the carbon reduction goals, as well as the final scoping plan as adopted by the Climate Action Council. I think John mentioned that there's the codes that the code process that you're going through to update the codes pursuant to the ICC, the 3-year cycle, as DOS presented to the Climate Action Council. But then you also mentioned that if there's legislation that is passed by the legislature that directs the Code Council to take action, that would happen immediately. And so I would just, my public comment is that I believe that the law, as passed and signed into law in July, has directed the Code Council to update the code to reflect the carbon reduction goals in the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act and the recommendations in the Climate Action Council final scoping plan, including specifically the electrification of new construction in New York State, which is a recommendation within the Climate Action Council's final scoping plan. Thank you for listening and for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Anybody else?
I do not see anyone else.
Okay, if there's no other public comments, we will close public comments. Move to agenda item 7. Future meetings 2023. So right now we have a schedule for March 31st, the very last day of the first quarter. That's to give us the maximum amount of time with regard to the SPA and regulation. June 23rd, September 22nd, and December 1st of next year. Obviously, you know, we like to have dates, but there is always the chance that those could change depending on regulatory needs, and that is probably going to be true of 2024 as well. So just heads up, and then of course we need an interim meeting. We'll be figuring that out as well. Okay, that takes care of future meetings. Other business. Kevin, Peniota, John, any other business to come before the council today? Kevin whispers in my ear no, so then I'll ask the council members. Any other business to come before the council today?
No.
All right. Okay. Hearing none, I'll move to adjourn. I wish you all a very happy holiday and a safe winter season. Hopefully there are some skiers in the group and they get out. And we'll see you all. Hopefully we'll be deep in the spring by March 31st. I'm still wearing my fall suit. We are adjourned. We're off the record.